Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, in a surprise move last week, guess what? Senator Pat Toomey moved into the universal background check, gun background check business with a big deal with West Virginia Senator Manchin. And we continue our series on liquor privatization, Pennsylvania politics, in depth and in detail. And guess what? It all starts right now.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Oh, quite a week in national and state politics. Here to help me sort all these things out is Robert Vickers. He's a state and national reporter with the Harrisburg Patriot News. And I got to mention PennLive, if I don't.
Please
John
do.
Mysick and all your friends that keep saying it's PennLive, get on PennLive, get on PennLive. At any rate, Robert, thanks for coming on. I'll tell you, I think most of us in the past 2 weeks were stunned that a Pennsylvania conservative senator, mostly known for fiscal matters, entitlement reform, budgets, moves center stage into the compromise on universal gun background checks. What was your take on that?
Well, it's still an issue to be discovered as to why
Absolutely.
Pat Toomey got involved in this. He talked a little bit about it in a conference call with Pennsylvania reporters the day that he announced the agreement.
Right.
But basically said he saw it as an opportunity. It's not his bailiwick. It's not the area that he works in. But he saw this as an opportunity, and he's not been afraid to get involved in high-profile issues in the past. Well,
that's true. The other thing about the senator that I think has not been well understood is he's tried to reach across the aisle on a number of occasions. You know, he did his own budget. It had actually some revenues in it. You know, revenue increases. Republicans normally don't go that way. He's worked with Senator Schumer on some other things and with his own, you know, with our other Senator Casey. So in some ways, the compromise aspect of it, when he can, doesn't seem completely out of line, out of context. You know, it seems more like the Pat Toomey. Maybe I'm wrong about that. What's your take on that?
Well, his conservative credentials are rock solid.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the biggest budget hawk in the Senate. Endorsed by the NRA, and they don't always endorse in races. Considered, I think, one of the four most conservative senators in Congress. But you have to remember where Pat Toomey is from, how he got into politics. He served in a blue congressional district, and so his politics and his ability to maneuver in these waters is I think, much deeper than people give him credit for.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, yeah, he needs his. We're debating now whether what Senator Toomey has done will help or hurt him when he runs for re-election in 2016. He only won by 2 percentage points, as you know. You were around, you covered that race. I mean, he has to do well in the eastern part of the state, up in the Lehigh Valley where he served and in the Philly suburbs. But he then also has to worry about, quote, his base.
Absolutely.
So do you think the real problem for him would be with this vote? First of all, do you think it's going to be a problem for 2016?
I think there's some potential, but the biggest factor is there's a lot of time between now and 2016. A lot of water is going to flow under the bridge between now and then. There are going to be people who remember, and I know there are certainly some gun rights proponents in the state that are very, very disappointed right now, vehement, I mean, foaming at the mouth, some of them. They feel like they've elected Arlen Specter again, and they won't forget. But it was interesting to me that Ed Rendell was one of the people that was singing his praises when word of this negotiation leaked. He got up, I think, in a rally in Philadelphia with Mayor Nutter and said, "Look, stand your ground. You know, we've got your back." Which is an interesting thing for somebody like Ed Rendell to do.
Is the translation, we're going to give you help in Philadelphia and the Philly suburbs? Is that the translation there?
Maybe not as publicly, but certainly Pat Toomey is somebody that Ed Rendell respects and appreciates, and he's been effusive in his praise of Toomey on numerous occasions.
Yeah. The motives here, I mean, my sense is that Toomey just doesn't, I mean, they're all political. There's not a decision they make that they don't go through a political calculus. But my sense about this, and tell me what you think about this, or I'll ask the question, do you think that it was purely political, or do you think he really thinks this is the right way to go?
I think it's both, which is really the ideal thing you want in an elected official.
Yeah, right.
You want them to be able to understand the landscape in which they're operating in, but you also want them to recognize the importance of the issues in front of them and be willing to take a stand, even when it's not popular with some segments of their constituency.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the real question is, you know, as you point out, 2016 is in political terms almost 4 years away, right? 4 years, a lot can happen. But if he were to be challenged, it would probably be, more importantly, in a Republican primary over that.
Right.
Although, I mean, that's like debating who's going to be the nominees for president in, in 2000. We just finished one election. We're already moving on to the. But would you say that would be his biggest fear, that somebody will come after him on the right?
I wouldn't be surprised if some candidate is sort of ginned up for that part of the base to run, but I would find it very difficult, particularly with the national profile that he's developed. He's got a massive reputation now, not just among national Republicans,
but he's
also
a fiscal conservative too. I mean, he's got on that issue. That's where I think most Republicans are, right?
Right.
All right. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Robert about the big news. Allison Schwartz, the fourth Democrat to file to run against Governor Corbett. The list is like endless. We could stay here for 2 hours and talk about the possibilities. We'll be back with Robert Vickers following these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Business Council Education Foundation, educating citizens and business leaders about important public policy issues and civic affairs. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by BetterSaferRoads.com. To voice your support for safer highways and less traffic congestion, visit BetterSaferRoads.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Well, in the past week now, we have the fourth entry into the Democratic nomination field for governor. Allison Schwartz, a congresswoman from the 13th Congressional District in Philadelphia, filed papers. She can now raise money officially, and it's sort of the formal announcement that you're a candidate for governor, the fourth. I'll tell you what, that is big news. Tell our audience, tell our viewers a little bit about Allison. It's kind of a surprise given what she had done in Congress, right?
Well, it is, but everyone says that Allison Schwartz is very ambitious. For a long time, it was believed that she was eyeing a run against Pat Toomey.
Right.
But I think probably she sees this as an opportunity, unique and a unique time to seize it.
Right.
She's absolutely put together in these early stages probably the best organization of anybody that's in the race or plans to get in the race. And it's always a good indicator when you see where the talent in the political campaign community is drawn to a particular candidate. That's always an indication of where people think the wind is blowing.
Yeah, she in Congress for what, something like 10 terms. She served in the state Senate, pretty liberal. Does have some connections with business. Given but a woman, and we saw what happened with Kathleen Kane in the Attorney General's race where she led the ticket. Talk a little bit about some of the other advantages, and then we'll talk about some of the potential. Good organization, fundraiser?
Absolutely. She had a high-profile position with the Democratic Congressional Committee, campaign committee. I think it was co-chair of the Finance Committee, so she's got national connections in Democratic fundraising circles. Not only is she close with President Barack Obama, making, I think, over 100 appearances for him in the state during the campaign, she's also very close to the Clintons. Yeah. And if you can imagine her being able to get into a general election and being able to get Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton to come into Pennsylvania, that would be a massive for any candidate. Yeah.
Well, Bill Clinton especially, very popular in the state. And Clinton, as I think most of our folks know, defeated Obama in the primary campaign. So good point. Now, on the downside, it could conceivably be that she's liberal, also ran a healthcare clinic that provided abortion. And it's one thing maybe to be pro-choice, but to actually run a company, a healthcare organization that provided abortion, that will certainly be problematic for her when you say outside of the Philly suburbs in the other parts of the state.
It's certainly something that critics or Republicans or people that are looking at the race throw up quickly. Her people seem to feel that they've got an answer for it, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. Yeah. But it certainly is up to the voters, and it's at a time when female candidates have been elevated,
Absolutely.
And there's an interest
Absolutely.
in female candidates in these statewide
now,
races.
In a Democratic primary, I don't think that would be a particular negative. Do you? In a Democratic primary?
No. But there's also the likelihood that there'll be another woman in the race. Kathleen McGinty, the former DEP secretary, has told me this week.
Same county.
Same county. A lot of folks from that area,
County, yeah.
Democrats running for governor. She's in the race. She's was in Harrisburg earlier in the week, lining up support, talking to people. Glad-handing folks as she was walking down the street. Yeah. So that'll be an interesting dynamic with two women in that race.
Yeah, Kathleen McGinty, when she was Department of Environmental Protection Secretary, was a frequent guest on this program. She's very articulate, very smart, worked for Clinton, worked for Gore, will also, but it's a crowded field. Let's take a sweep. We've got perhaps 9 candidates, potential candidates. Do you think this is as wide open a Democratic field as we've probably had in recent years?
Almost certainly. And there was a lot of talk in the previous months about trying to clear the field a little bit or narrow the field down, and that seems to only have drawn more Democrats into the race.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people very interested on the Democratic side in getting in this race because they feel that the blood is in the water, that Tom Corbett, the governor, is very vulnerable, and the poll numbers suggest that. And they want to be in a position to seize on it if his trajectory continues down.
It also may come down to money. Tom Wolfe, a York businessman, announced a couple of weeks ago he pledged $10 million. Rob McCord, the state treasurer, certainly has been elected twice. We have another DEP secretary, John Hanger. I mean, typically second terms for governors are a cakewalk, with one exception, a cakewalk. This year, I think next year we're in for a very competitive election cycle, maybe both in the primary and the general election. Is that fair, competitive, close?
Absolutely. I mean, there could be a primary challenge for the governor, potentially, and the Republican Party in Pennsylvania has already pledged to raise between $30 and $40 million. It's going to be a nasty general election.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, a great update. Thanks for coming in. All right, when we return, we're getting various views now on the liquor privatization. We're going to hear from Kevin Shivers. He represents the National Federation of Independent Business. We're going to get their point of view on it, all of that following these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Welcome back to the program. Well, Kevin Shivers joins me. He's the Pennsylvania State Director for the National Federation of Independent Business. They represent about 15,000 small businesses in the state. Among them are beer distributors. I want to talk to Kevin about that, but here's the stage. Set the stage. House passes a bill, complete privatization of liquor in the state. The bill's now in the Senate. It's very controversial. There's all kinds of sides and parts and angles to it. We've been running a series of programs on it, hearing from both sides of the issue. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's talk about liquor privatization from your your point of view. You represent beer distributors, is that correct?
That's correct. I represent small and independent businesses in Pennsylvania. It includes taverns, restaurants, distributors, small grocery stores, convenience stores.
And now when this bill came out of the House, when it was being considered in the House, I read different reports from various folks on, in the area that you represent that had problems with different features of it. Go through and highlight some of the major points in the bill that you either like or don't like relative to tavern owners and distributors. Talk about that.
Sure. The reason we're talking about privatization right now is because of the jaw-dropping mismanagement by the State Liquor Control Board. But there have been recent court decisions in Pennsylvania that allow grocery stores and some convenience stores with restaurant licenses to be able to sell beer. For the small distributors, that's a real problem because, they're a destination. People can go to these stores to buy cases of beer, but state law, this is a Prohibition era law that prevents these distributors from selling anything less than a case. So you have to go to a tavern or somewhere else for a 6-pack or something smaller. So if we did nothing, we're going to see the demise of the state mom and pop state distributor as we know it.
What, about 1,200 of them in the state?
There are about 1,100 of them in the state. There are about 120 licenses right now that grocery stores and convenience stores have to sell beer, but they're estimating in 5 years, I'm hearing the number as high as 1,000 of those licenses.
So let me get this straight. So distributors can sell a case, they can't sell it in smaller units. Taverns and other retail outlets can sell 6-packs but can't sell a case. Do I get that right?
If you have a restaurant license in a grocery store or a convenience store, or if you're a tavern, you can sell 6-packs. You can't sell units larger than that.
Now, under the bill as passed in the House, taverns and beer distributors would be able to sell wine. Is that correct? And how about we never call it hard liquor. We call it spirits. I don't know where we got that name from.
Well, it's a Prohibition era law.
Spirits, okay.
Well, the bill that passed the House gives small beer distributors the chance to compete because they're still going to be a destination. They're going to be the only place in Pennsylvania where you can buy liquor, beer, and wine. So if you have a party at your home and you want to buy a bottle of rum or a nice bottle of wine, or you want to buy beer, you can actually go to the distributor to do that. They're the only ones that will have that ability to do that. So we're still making them a destination, and it's going to give them an opportunity to compete.
So under the current bill, you think beer distributors are happy? Under the proposal that's in the Senate right now.
Some distributors are happy. The biggest goal that NFIB had was we want to give an opportunity for business people to make a business decision. Do I want to stay in business? Do I have value so that if I want to retire from my business, I can sell it and turn a profit after a life's effort in that business? Or do I have the ability to compete and actually run and grow my business? And we think that the bill that passed the House gives them an opportunity. Now, the Senate has said they want to make some changes, and we're going to watch those really closely, Terry, because we have real concerns. If you make certain tweaks, you could actually ruin this opportunity for small businesses and just open it wide up to the big box stores and really make the environment in Pennsylvania uncompetitive.
We're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to add, we talked about the beer distributors. I want to talk about the small tavern owners, how they might be affected, and some of the other retail outlets by the current bill and what proposals we could see out of the state Senate. We'll do that after talking about money. We pay some bills.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Welcome back with Kevin Shivers. We're talking about liquor privatization. There's hearings I think are going to start very shortly in the state Senate. Bill passed the state House, as I pointed out. It's a complete privatization bill. As out of the House, it's now in the Senate where they could do some modernization, what they call modernization, change some features of it. Kevin, I want to go back to the point I made before the break. It seems that beer distributors on the one hand and the tavern owners and other retail outlets have different perspectives on this. Each sort of, so how does the current bill affect the small, the tavern owners? They can't sell a case, and restaurants and others. How would that make a difference in their lives?
Well, the number one rule in a successful business is location, location, location.
Oh, that's true.
And, one of the goals of the taverns, I know the distributors that are members of NFIB, is how can we continue to be a destination? If a grocery store can sell beer or wine, well, that makes it more convenient for a consumer to just get their groceries, pick up a bottle of wine, maybe some beer, go home. Why are there reasons for people to come to these taverns and distributors? And that's one of the concerns that we had going forward as this legislation evolved was, what can we do to make sure that these small businesses still are destinations? We're talking about a Prohibition era law that prevented them from actually growing and expanding. So for taverns, you're a destination. You're going to go there to watch a sporting event, or maybe to some important family activity, or out with friends. But now you're going to have the opportunity to buy a bottle of wine and take that home.
So you go there. Your point is, you go there, you sit down, you have a bite to eat, and you want to buy a 6-pack of beer, you want to buy a bottle of wine. It's that convenient for you.
That's exactly right. So there's still a reason, there's still a need as a destination. Now the challenge with a distributor, on the other hand, is all they have is beer, and state law prevents them from selling anything other than things like Slim Jims and potato chips now. Yeah. So under the new law, they're going to have an ability at a very reasonable price to be able to purchase those licenses to sell wine and spirits,
but
and they can
can't
do
sell
all three.
Lottery tickets. Come on, now that's a reason to go there.
Absolutely, yes. Well, now it'll be a true party store, or really, in all seriousness, a package store.
I got it. I want to ask you about the debate over the big box stores, and I notice now where some of the conventional stores like Penny's and Kmart don't seem to be doing as well. Probably get lots of email about that saying I'm wrong about that, but as some of these bigger box stores have literally upped the ante. What would be your concern about expansion of alcohol, if any? I'm sure you have some, that's why I'm asking the question, into the big box stores?
Well, I think small business owners fear government mandates and policies more than they do competition from larger private sector businesses. A small business owner, they've been dealing with private sector competition from the big box stores for years.
So you don't think it's much of a big deal then?
Makes them work harder. I tell you what, I was attending a conference in Tallahassee, and I went to visit a small distributor. Now they have wine and liquor and beer you can buy in Walmart's down in Tallahassee. I mean, and Walmart is the big store. And yet this one small distributor, he was the largest seller of spirits in Tallahassee. And I asked them why. And he said, one is location. Number two, it's inventory management. Putting stuff on your shelves that consumers want. He said, I might not have, some of the more common beer products or the certain types of liquor on my shelves, but I have the stuff that people want. It's a niche and people come here.
Thanks for coming in and getting your organization's point of view. I appreciate it. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, you stay well.